Hello, you're watching World Talks on TVP World. My name is Sascha Fahrbach. Hopefully, Iran will quickly come to the table and negotiate a fair and equitable deal. No nuclear weapons. These words from U.S. President Donald Trump underscore the growing urgency of U.S.-Iran tensions, now with a substantial U.S. military presence in the Gulf building up, and the EU's recent designation of the IRGC as a terrorist organization. The region faces a complex mix of diplomatic, strategic, and other challenges. Now, to discuss the latest and what could happen next, we're joined by Rana Rahmanfard, a member of the Anglo-Iranian Youth Association. Good to have you on the program. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
So now we've had strong statements on Truth Social by President Donald Trump before in the last couple of weeks. Is it different now? We have this carrier group on the way into probably nearby the Strait of Hormuz. That's serious stuff. He's mentioned this as well. What difference will that make? What do you make of Iran's change? Will this affect any sort of settlements or talks?
Thank you. Well, first of all, I'd like to say that, the Iranian people, both inside Iran and in the diaspora, we very much welcome this firm stance by President Donald Trump, and we welcome the support. And as you mentioned, the EU took big action by proscribing the IRGC as a terrorist organization just yesterday, and we hope that now the UK can also get the wheels in motion on that as well. But in terms of the changes that a possible, foreign interference or foreign action could make in Iran, this is not what the Iranian people want, nor do they actually need it. If we look at Iran's history, unfortunately, there has been a very long history of foreign action or foreign interference, whatever you might call it. And it's always happened at very, I would say, critical junctures in Iran's history, at points of very, potentially very huge change, positive change for the Iranian people. But things like this have always hindered it. And if we look back to going back decades to the coup against Dr. Mossadegh, which unfortunately took him away from power. But the difference is that back then there wasn't a sort of organized resistance of people to stand up to the foreign powers. But today there is. There are resistance groups operating right across the country. We saw protests happening across all provinces of Iran, over 200 cities. And it's because of the organization of the people. And that's why, compared to previous uprisings that we saw in 2009, 2017, 2019, etc., this one has felt a lot more organized and a lot more radicalized, frankly. Now it's, targeting the very heart of the regime. People are starting to fight back as well. They're being met with bullets by IRGC and security forces in the streets, and now they're kind of slowly starting to mobilize themselves and to defend themselves. So I think that if we're to see big change vis-a-vis regime change in Iran, it has to come from the people. It has to work from the ground up, not from, an attack by a foreign power, I think. Mm-hmm.
I want to comment on that because, you've said here that there's no need for any kind of foreign intervention in terms of military and whatever that may be, if that's bombings or something else. But also, you spoke of this organized resistance, and we have seen, I think, also the kind of information it's hard to get, isn't it, because of the blackout that was taken over, almost no contact. Now I think that's sparsely easing again, but nevertheless hard to verify the exact number of casualties, which I think has been severe. But at the same time, I'm just curious, what is that way forward, you see? If you say that the Iranians are more organized, but yet the regime continues to also threaten others, Israel, the United States, they will react against that. I mean, where are the means? How will that change come about? Because right now we know that there have been a lot of casualties. So what is needed to make that change happen in your mind?
You're absolutely right. The casualties have been on a scale that I think Iranian people, Iranian society haven't witnessed, at least for a few decades. You know, even if we compare this to the 1988 massacre of 30,000 political prisoners, this, as you say, with the sparse amount of information that we are getting, we estimate this could even be worse than that, just based on the levels of brutality. But I also think that this is very much telling of the regime's weakness and their desperation. You know, I think they know that they are just one push away from falling. And that push against them is growing stronger and stronger by the day. You know, we've not seen this crowd of protesters. You know, we're talking in the tens of thousands across so many cities. And it's such a strong push to, you know, finally throw the regime over the edge. So I think that their actions are out of weakness. But at the same time, it's because the people are growing stronger. You know, I mentioned the resistance units and, you know, the groups of rebellious youth who are starting to fight back. They're growing more organized because, you know, they're very much influenced and led by the National Council of Resistance of Iran, which operates in exile. And they are, you know, they're here to kind of keep this flame of resistance going. And now that we're starting to get some kind of internet connection back in Iran and starting to kind of build a bigger picture, more clear picture, we can see that the people are constantly shouting down with the dictator, down with Khamenei. As I said, you know, very much targeting the very heart of this regime and the very top Ayatollah, you know, the regime supreme leader, Khamenei. And
I want to jump in on that, Rana. Yeah, let me jump in on that because I'm curious. You said this regime is one push away from falling, but ultimately, what will that push be? What will it take? I mean, you mentioned the National Resistance Council. They're in exile. I know that there's also some calling for Pahlavi. That's also something controversial. But what is that push? And ultimately, how can that happen without military intervention, even if that's domestic? I mean, do you see kind of, the defection of military commanders or something different or some blended force? Because right now, unfortunately, we have dead people on the ground. But how does that final push come? How do you see it?
I don't think I see it from necessarily from defectors of the higher commanders and officials. That we do see some kind of dissent from the very lower ranks, because at this point it's becoming clearer that those in the lower ranks of the IRGC, for example, I don't think their loyalties to the Ayatollah stems from, ideological loyalties. I do think at this point it's very much a monetary incentive that they just get paid in this position. But the high-ranking commanders and officials, they are specifically placed there not through merit or promotion or what have you. They're placed there because of their ideological loyalties to the supreme leader. So I don't think that would come from those forces suddenly turning on the commanders. Not to mention that we already have seen a few instances of quite high-ranking officials within the regime so much as just speaking out against the system in some way. You know, in 1988, Montazeri, who was really next in line to be the next supreme leader after Khomeini at the time, he said that the 1988 massacre would truly have devastating consequences for the regime itself. And the result of that was that he was put aside. He was taken away from his position. Similarly, in 2009, when there was the Green Movement and the leader kind of, you know, they said that there was meddling in the elections and things like that. At that time, again, that high-ranking official, he was put aside, and anyone who so much as speaks out is either exiled or put on house arrest or anything like that, because, you know, the regime can't afford that crumble. They can't afford that crumble.
But at the same time, I know we're conscious of the time, but at the same time, since the revolution back in the late 70s, there has been this regime in place. There have been, as you said, certain resistance movements. It was 88 or 2009 or what have you. It still continues. So really quickly, one last sentence. Do you think that that final push, as you put it, will come in the coming days or weeks? Will this regime fall, or will be something else that'll evolve once again?
I think it's difficult to speculate, and I couldn't gamble with the Iranian people's lives based on a speculation or hypothetical. But I think the gaps between these uprisings is shorter and shorter. And I think people are uniting amongst themselves despite any political differences that they have, because there's one goal now, and that is to get rid of this regime. And I think that strength and, you know, starting to defend themselves and fight back, they are the boots on the ground. You know, the people themselves are the boots on the ground. They don't need the foreign boots coming in. And I think that their numbers and strengths will grow stronger and stronger, and it will grow stronger than the regime and be able to topple them very soon, for sure.
All right, so we'll see how that does develop over the next days, even, or weeks or longer. Thanks so much for all those really interesting insights. That was our guest here, Rana Rahmanfard from the Anglo-Iranian Youth Association. Thank you. And thank you for watching World Talks, but stay right here on TVP World for more news and commentary. Goodbye.